Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of Criminal Minds Evolution Season 1, Episode 5. This is the last one before we go on hiatus. And with that in mind, the producers were off somewhere being like,
We're going to give you a cliffhanger where you know that nobody dies. That's really where we are with this, guys. We are going to be talking about that because I think we all know that JJ and Luke are going to be just fine. And there's a lot to talk about with that in particular of why give us a cliffhanger like that when we know no one's leaving the show.
Okay, well, we're gonna get into all of that, but of course, hit that subscribe button. Give us your best evil laugh in the comments here, by the way, as well. Join in on the evil laugh party, everybody. But we will have more reviews throughout all the rest of Criminal Minds Evolution, including when it returns on January 12th.
Also, if you're celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas to
Yeah,
everybody. Happy Hanukkah. If you're not celebrating anything, hope you have a really fun time with your holidays,
yeah.
hanging out with friends and family, safe, lots of food, lots of fun. So, we'll see you guys in the new year for more Criminal Minds. Also, follow us over on Instagram, Matt and Jess TV. Just a small little plug here for anyone out there who also owns a bunny like I own a bunny. I've opened up an Etsy shop that has bunny bedding on it. It's my first time ever doing anything like that. We will have a link in the description below, or you can check over on Instagram. It's really cute.
Yeah, it really, really is. And you know what's not cute? This cliffhanger. Okay, here's the biggest thing going on in my head here, and this is why this is all so absurd to me. You guys lost Goobler. You lost Daniel Henney.
Mhm.
Are you really gonna then be like, okay, let's pluck off another series regular in episode 5 and then leave you with, I don't know, like 4, 5 people the rest of the show to stop a network of killers?
Yeah, that's the thing about it. I think it's just we've seen these types of cliffhangers on so many procedurals over the years that
Yeah.
it's kind of like usually you have kind of a hint if somebody's leaving or there's other things going on or some interviews would have come out and there's nothing. So it's kind of like it's really hard to have these types of cliffhangers when you know that there's no real skin in the game. Kind of like Yellowstone, which is another show
Mhm.
that we're covering here at the channel. Spoiler alert, the big cliffhanger from last season. So if you haven't caught up,
Yeah.
just cover your ears here. They had 3 of the main characters in really life-threatening situations all at the same time and at different locations. And I kind of came out of that being like, okay, if they do not kill off any of these characters, then I don't believe anything else going forward. There's no way that you're going to have like a hit like this and nobody's going to end up dying. And guess what? Nobody died. So I came back this season being like, wah, 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 wah. Not that I wanted anyone to die, but I'm like, take a chance. Be White Lotus, which is a show that, like, I'm not even that into. I've tried. Listen, I've tried. Please don't come for me in the comments. I've tried to get into this show. But they will take chances. They will kill big characters in interesting ways. And, they'll do it. Criminal Minds, you guys are on a streaming platform now. You guys can take some big chances. Give us something, especially if you're going to have a bomb go off in sort of this underground bunker where we saw from the body cams that Luke and JJ were in the stairwell. They were not out. So unless they're getting blown out the stairwell,
Yeah.
they're dead. Both of them. They're both dead. But we know that they're not.
No, they not dead. Criminal Minds, these characters shall live forever. It has been decreed. I really just want to talk about now how I've watched that scene in the White Lotus. I won't spoil it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. I love that scene. I've seen that scene like 8 times already. But no, this cliffhanger, it's like you said, there has to be real legitimate stakes on a show like this. Like real reasons to get people excited, to keep people watching, to make people feel like, oh, their loved characters are in actual danger.
Speaking of keep watching, hit that subscribe button if you are enjoying this discussion. We do deep dives of this show every single week that's on. Of course, we'll be back in January doing more. Let's talk about other people who aren't dying, allegedly.
Yeah.
So we had this huge thing with Will. Oh, it might be cancer. And then JJ found out that he's been keeping it from her for months. And then they're like, it's a thyroid problem. At least that's what Will is telling her. And I'm kind of like, listen, I feel
Yeah.
like this is one of the first things they would have tested for, that they're not going to put out the big C word and then be like, oh, it's just a thyroid problem. Oopsie. Like, I feel like one of two things are happening here. Either Will is hiding what's actually happening from her, which obviously is a problem in their relationship if he's doing that. Or like there was something a little wonky here with the writing, that they just wanted to give us all a scare, but then they made it something that should have been one of the first tests that were done on him and wasn't. It's like, oh, it's been going on for months. Ah, it's just a thyroid problem. Have some medicine, you be fine. I'm like, what?
Okay.
What?
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist either, by the
You're
way.
not?
Yeah, I know. Don't let the glasses fool you. I am not that scientifically smart. So it is just, okay, I don't understand any of these things. And yet, even still, I agree with you that this is something that they would have tested. And also, by the way, Criminal Minds, if you wanted to give us like a really compelling cliffhanger at the end of this, you would have either rewritten this ending or found some other way to put Will in danger and let Will be the big life or death cliffhanger here, because there is a strong possibility they could kill off Will. I mean, we talked about this at length in this last video when you were sort of going through how Spencer could end up coming back. Like, there's a lot of reasons for Will to potentially be killed off, and we would have actually believed that. And instead, you sort of offer up this answer for Will, and then you give this cliffhanger for other people who are not going to die. And with that, we have no suspense.
But there was a Reed mention in this episode. I'm just kind of putting it out there that they've been kind of setting up for JJ to end up being single. We talked, like you said, we talked about this in the last video, that they've been kind of setting it up for her to be single. They've mentioned Reed numerous times on the show. There's nothing about him necessarily coming back, but it does sound like, at least on Criminal Minds side, the door is wide open for him should he make a decision to come back. And in my heart of hearts, I actually think he will come back. He may not come back as a regular. He might come back as a regular, but I think we will see him again. But yeah, this whole Will thing, this is where I'm kind of landing with. This is my theory. So everybody get out your tinfoil hats and put them on.
Ready to go.
I think that Will is lying. And not because he's like a bad guy or he's doing it to hurt JJ. I think he's doing it to try to, I guess, sort of buy some time to be able to have, if he has cancer and he's dying, he might just want it to be that the last times that they're spending together aren't focused on that. Maybe he's made a decision that he doesn't want to move forward with treatment and he just wants to spend the time that he has. You know, it's a difficult decision when you're facing that, of what you want to do with your time and your body and your medical health. So that might be where it's going, because we kind of had this thing between them where he was like, listen, I didn't tell you this has been going on for a couple months, but you don't tell me when you're going into dangerous situations. So pinky swear, you're going to tell me. And this is where I get into a little bit of a beef with this. JJ is in a very dangerous job where she has to be like laser focused when she's about to do something really dangerous, so that she can either save somebody or, there's a bomb in here, like whatever it is. I would think that you would need to really focus in on what you're doing, and making a call to your spouse to be like, hey, I might die right now. Sorry, just letting you know, kiss the kids for me. I love you, is like a call that I think would really get into her head, where she would make that call and then maybe start to be thinking about that instead of what she's supposed to do, because the focus on the job has now shifted to, okay, I've just called Will. I know she didn't tell him, but she was like, oh, I'm just calling to say I love you. She might as well have just told him.
Yeah.
But, that sort of thing where it's like, okay, now she's not as focused on what she's doing. And then they go in and this bomb blows off. So now they've both kind of possibly lied to each other, if my theory is right. Will has cancer and he's keeping it to himself. She called, but she didn't tell him anything, and now the bomb went off. Maybe they're not going to kill off Will, which is, I would prefer that he doesn't get just killed off. I don't want to see anyone getting killed off on the show, but they are going to break them up, and that's where the show is going. This is something that could potentially really break them up, where he's hiding things, she's hiding things, big things. These aren't small.
I could see I could definitely see that. I mean, I could also see what you're saying about him, having cancer or having something that's really terminal and just hiding it from her because, a lot of guys out there are really prideful. I'm not passing judgment on anybody who has, any diagnosis. They can treat it however they want. But we know that there
Yes.
are a lot of people, men in particular, who have, a certain level of, I want to be treated this way. I don't want people to feel sorry for me, who are going to go through their life with that particular mindset. Like I've known some of these people. And so I could theoretically really see something like that happen. I just think the request that Will has made of JJ, it's not the same thing as what is going on with him, where he is not in the same position as JJ in a day-to-day basis, and he knows that her job is dangerous. Like if I am him, I don't necessarily need a phone call. I just need every day to wake up. And I know it's a difficult place to be, but just recognize that this is the nature of the beast. This is the job that she has. Any day could be in danger,
Hmm.
and any day something could happen. So he has to have that in his mind all the time, regard phone call or not, and just, hope for the best and hope that she comes home at the end of the day. I mean, she's been doing this for a decade and a half plus, I guess, when you put in that time jump. So like she's been all right so far.
All right, we got to talk about Garcia and
Or
Green and what's going on here with this, whatever is going on here. We know that the show loves to give Garcia these, people that she's at odds with.
yeah,
Like it's a story that they've had on the show with Luke like multiple times, that Garcia has to have somebody that she's having sort of a flirt fight with. And
yeah,
now it's this guy where there's the back and forth between them. She's having this attractive guy who's having a back and forth with her, and this is the thing. I want to see Garcia with Luke. I think that there was a really nice chemistry with them building, and then there was the whole like, let me take you out on a date, and she's like, okay, and then that just went nowhere. It was
yeah.
just the premiere was kind of like, oh, we had lunch, it didn't work out. Come on, man. Like a lot of us waited a long time to get something from that. It turned into nothing. And now here we have Green with the kitten. Okay, listen,
Yeah,
I'm just going to have a really short sort of PSA here.
yeah,
Don't go to a shelter and get an animal and give it to anybody as a gift. I feel like I don't really need to say this,
yeah,
and the show even did say this, but there was some mixed messages there. So we had this thing where Rossi went to a shelter, got a kitten or a cat, and threw it in this box and gave it to Green to give to Garcia as a peace offering.
yeah,
Animals aren't handbags. They're not something that you just give as a gift.
yeah.
It is something that somebody has to make a decision to take on, especially if you're rescuing an animal.
Hmm.
We have a rescue cat here.
Yeah.
They come with, some challenges, and that's okay. But you have to be in the frame of mind to be like, I am taking on this challenge. I am choosing this. I have a friend who got married, and their uncle gave them like a Jack Russell as their wedding gift. And they were not in the market for a dog. They were not looking for a dog, and they didn't want a dog. And then they have this dog for 16 years that it was like a really kind of weird relationship. Don't give people animals.
Here's here is a humble suggestion. If you want to give Garcia the gift of animals, Take her to a cat cafe. You know, one of those things where you got like the cats roaming around while you're just like drinking the coffee or whatever. It's like temporary. You can go, you spend time with the cats, and then you leave and you call it a day.
They could have fixed the situation by Garcia mentioning in front of Rossi and in front of this guy, I am in the market to adopt another cat. You know, like just put it out there to be like, you know what? I've been really thinking about this, and this is something that I really want. Then it makes a little more sense. I'm still saying don't do it, but at
Yeah.
least it makes a little more sense that someone would gift you an animal. Like, because she was like, yeah, you know, you really shouldn't do this. I'm like, okay, great. The show has said that. But give me the cat. I'm like, okay, you're giving mixed messages that even though you shouldn't do it, you could still put a smile on someone's face. Don't do it.
All right, is everybody ready for my extensive, long-winded thoughts on the unsub of the week?
Let's do it. It's not this.
Those are my thoughts on the unsub of the week, everybody. And thank you for that, adding to my nightmare fuel. Okay, no, this, no. Everything. Okay, it's perfect for Criminal Minds. I will say that because mostly a good 80% of the unsubs on this show, just in terms of how creepy they are, I'm like instantly out on them already. And congratulations, you did it again. I'm out on this. I never want to see or hear about this person ever again.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that's starting to get just a little bit confusing. And I know it seems like we're kind of dumping on this episode, and it's because we are. Listen, they have really set up
Yeah.
like the main guy that's running this network in a really solid way where he's he's got this network. He's keeping things very private on back channels, talking about things. And it's like, oh, and here's the senator's son. And so at first I was kind of like, why would he take on somebody who's such a huge public figure? You know, the senator's a public figure, the kids of senators, very public figures. Why would he take on somebody like this? And then it was like, oh, well, he's bankrolling a lot of it. Okay, that makes sense. Then you end up in this situation where things are going awry. The senator's son has been brought in, they're looking to press charges. Now the senator's sort of involved, lots of high profile stuff going on. So what happens? He shows up at Ben's house, at the senator's house, and is like, here you go to town on your mom, and then we're just gonna leave her for everyone to find. It's so high profile. I just was like, where is this going? Like, is he a guy who wants to keep things on the down low to keep the network going, or is he looking for a big spectacle guy? It's a little bit confusing.
Just like I am not a doctor, I'm also not running a network of serial killers, so I do not know what a guy like Elias Boyd thinks about this sort of situation, but it is really high profile, and he doesn't strike me, and this is a character we've only known for a few episodes, I could be wrong, but he doesn't strike me as one of these people who necessarily thinks that like he is invincible or untouchable, or he can do all this sort of stuff and get away with it just because he has been sort of careful and under the radar so far. So it doesn't chart with the profile. I don't know if he's getting sloppy or but if he's getting sloppy and desperate, it's episode 5. It's like, where are you going to go with this in episode 9?
Okay, what I think is happening, here's my next
all right.
is that he's just making Ben a patsy. And because the minute that he was like, oh, I don't have my teeth, which has been protecting him, he's like, you got your regular teeth, dig in. I was kind of like, okay, yeah, either he's getting really, really sloppy, but then when it was like, oh, and they're leaving the senator to be found with, her son's teeth marks in her, I was like, okay, clearly he's got to be setting him up to be like the guy who's, the head of the network. And that way it's just like he can be even more invisible.
Speaking of teeth and diving in, we're covering Yellow Jackets in the new year. Season 2 is premiering, so
that was a really fire segue.
Listen, sometimes we plan things, sometimes they just happen. That just happened. Also, this just happened. Thank you guys for hanging out with us through all Criminal Minds Evolution Season 1 so far. We will see you here next time.